Okay, well, I think it's probably time for us to make a start, if that's okay. So on behalf of the Kaleidoscope Committee, welcome to those of you who are joining us for this session on robots, lasers, and the quest for creativity, brought to you by the folks from the Makerspace. And again, on behalf of the committee, thank you to you folks from the Makerspace for joining us and giving this presentation today. Much appreciated. A couple of housekeeping notes for everybody here first, just for us to cover. The session will be recorded so that we can share this with anyone who isn't able to attend. Maybe they're at one of our other sessions from this afternoon. If you personally don't want to be recorded, obviously that's fine. You can just turn off your video and your audio, and then nothing that you do in the session will be captured there. We ask that you please have your microphone on mute when you're not speaking, just so that there's no clashing sound with the presenters. You are welcome to use the chat to post questions whenever they come to mind. I'll be keeping track of them. Unless there's urgent things that pop up in that chat, though, there will be intervals during which those questions are addressed. But feel free to post them if you think of them. And then the last thing to note is that we will be sending out some evaluation surveys after the event. Just to get your feedback. It won't necessarily be at the individual session level, but look out for that survey just so that we can get your input on maybe how we can improve on this if we have to do it remotely again, because obviously this is a first for us as a committee. So nothing else for me to say. I'd like to hand it over now. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides and I'm personally looking forward to the session.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Rob. It's a great introduction. Hey, everybody. We're here to talk about robots, lasers, and the quest for creativity. All things that are very close to my heart. So I look forward to sharing them all with you and talking them with the lovely group of people and colleagues that I work with. So for myself, for those of you who don't know me, I am the Assistant Manager of Marketing and Communications for the Applied Research, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship Office. And part of that is leading the Makerspace. So it's a funny way that I landed into here, but I absolutely love the Makerspace. It's my happy place, and we're going to share it all with you. I'm going to kick it over to Stephen, who can introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Stephen Garnier, and I am the webmaster and digital content developer for the Office of Applied Research. I'm also very lucky today that I get to be in the Makerspace. So I'm apologizing to Al, my digital audio prof. The sound quality is terrible, but there's a lot of machines whirring around here. And as the promise in video, if you can hear it, you will see it later. I'll show you a bunch of the stuff I've got going
on. All right. Hey, guys, my name is Davos. I work inside the Makerspace as a technician. I am not, unfortunately, in the Makerspace, but I am very much comfortably in my own little Makerspace. So, all right.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. You know what? I don't want to waste any time. We got a lot to do today. So what we're going to do first is not introduce any concepts, not do anything, but we're going to make something. So I need somebody, one of you, I'm one of the people in the audience, to actually volunteer, because they're going to laser cut something from wherever you are, sitting wherever you are at home, which is a cool concept that we've had to figure out with COVID. So does anybody want to volunteer? Put up their hand, let me know, type it in the chat. What do you want to do?
I'll try it.
All right, sure. Thanks, Michelle. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And
you may regret this.
Have you used a laser cutter before? Can I ask? Okay, awesome. Well, you're going to do it today, but it's going to be a totally different way of you having ever used it before. So just a quick overview before we kick it to Stephen is that the laser cutter is in the Makerspace, but through the magic of Zoom and the magic of that software and a camera inside the laser, you're going to be able to actually control the laser itself from wherever you are. So over to Stephen to help you do that.
All right, so I'm currently standing in the Makerspace in front of our laser cutter, and it looks, as you can see, like a very unassuming black box. This unassuming box, however, is probably one of the most powerful, if not the most flexible tools we have in the space. And through the challenge that has been COVID, we've actually found a way to make this device in our space work from just about wherever you are. I'm going to jump back over to my computer now. And while I'm going to mute this. All right. So while I'm over here, I can actually give you control of my computer. I will share the interface and what it looks like. So when I'm using the laser cutter, this is the screen that I see. I can actually give you, and Michelle will do that right now, I'll give you control over my computer. So if you move the mouse, you'll be moving the mouse on my computer here.
Doing it right now.
All right. So if you are, do you have control?
It says you can control Stephen Garnier's screen. Is that?
Yeah, so if you move your mouse, it should move the cursor.
I'm seeing it moving, but are
Okay.
you seeing it?
I'm not seeing it move. That's perfectly fine though, as long as you are.
Yeah.
So if you go over to the top left corner here, import, one of the best things about our laser cutter, exactly capture will be the second one we use. One of the best things about our laser cutter is it actually has a camera built into it. So if you click on capture, it'll actually take a picture of the material that's sitting on the bed. Hit next here. And what this will do is take a picture of the material that's sitting on the laser. I can't easily walk up and show you right now, but there's a camera moving across the bed and it's going to grab 9 pictures and stitch those together. Our laser cutter was designed with user friendliness in mind, but it also has another added advantage in that it allows us to use scrap material over and over again. If you can see the pictures that are developing on the screen here, you'll notice there are 2 half circles that are already cut out in the top of the piece and a white sticker in the right corner. We can actually position exactly what it is we want to cut today on the sheet to make sure that we avoid those spaces so we're not wasting space and we don't end up using or not using scrap material. So if you click on done, that picture is exactly how it looks on the bed. If you go back to import now on the top left corner, now we're going to go to file, the second option. Click anywhere in there, in that box. And we're going to grab the Kaleidoscope logo, which hopefully at some point you've seen today. The third option, the third one. Click on open. And now where it says please select an option, we're going to import only the cuts. So you'll see a few options. Cut only. Click on continue. And it'll add it onto the page. Now it's very faint, but you can see there is a large half circle outline with the logo in it that's currently somewhere near the top corner of the page. If you move the middle mouse wheel, if you have a wheel, it'll actually zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. And there you go. Now, if you drag that outline farther down.
Sorry, drag the outline?
Yeah,
Oh,
click, hold and drag it, exactly, drag that down.
okay.
And we're gonna, if you zoom out, we're gonna make that a little bit smaller. That's gonna take most of the sheet. It's kind of hard to tell right now, but that thing is approximately 11 inches wide, which is much bigger than we need it to be.
Okay.
So if you zoom out a little bit, you'll see, not the other way. So you see there's a corner on there. There's a blue box around it.
Yeah.
Grab one of those corners and resize it. Make it about 1/4 of that size. Excellent. And then if you bring that up a little bit closer to the others.
I've lost it now.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, you might need to help me here. I seem to have lost it.
That's fine. I can jump in as well. So the beauty of this remote thing is I also have the ability. I'm going to bring that up right here. So it'll place it underneath the first one. I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller.
Okay.
And now if you click on the clock in the middle where it says time.
Yep.
Just click on that. It'll give you an estimate. So that's going to take about 7 minutes, which is perfectly fine. That'll give Matt time to talk about some of the lessons we've learned. The last change we're going to make is over on the side. See a panel where it says cut score with some slider bars?
Oops. Cut score? No, where do I? Oh, yes, right.
It may be hidden
Yep,
behind.
sliders, yep.
Yeah, so it'll say a number of passes. I think right now it says 1. Sorry, I'm going to take control here for a second.
Oh, yeah, I see the passes, yeah.
We're going to make it do 2 passes.
2, thank you.
All right, so the last thing you need to do is hit start.
Which is start.
Up in the top bar.
Right on.
All right, so from now on, it's going to get very noisy in this space. My fan sounds like a jet engine. So I'm actually going to mute my mic and Matt's going to take over and explain what's happening.
Hey everyone. So as it sets up here, it's going to get sent to the cutter. So the file that you just set up, Michelle, is ready in there. We have a copy of it. We've dragged it in, and imagine just as it prepares, this is just, we didn't even get the logo from Kaleidoscope. We just went on the internet, found something that we wanted to cut out, made a copy of it using Illustrator. And so you can take anything that you want to, and we liked the Kaleidoscope logo because it's actually fairly intricate and can sort of, if you wanted to carve that by hand, for example, you'd need certainly need some skills and some added time. And
And I definitely don't have those.
well, I mean,
I have no skills.
hey, come
I
on.
assure you.
Well, see, this is what we're here to help with in the makerspace. We want to teach people how to do these things that they don't think they can. You know, at the beginning, you're like, I don't know, I'm going to regret this. I might, you know, it might be too hard. It's like, we want to turn that into like, I think I can do this, or let's just try. And if I don't get it, that's okay too. You know, Steven's here to help. Exactly what, you know, at a certain point, he could jump in and give you help. And that's what we do every day in the makerspace virtually now, but we used to do it in the actual space. So I think Steven has the laser cutter going now, and it's actually going to start moving. Steven, do you want to, can you show your screen there? Oh, he's gone from there. Okay. Well, Steven, are you there? Can you share your screen again, just so that they can see it moving in the software? So you can actually watch in real time as the laser goes through. So that red dot there, I think, is just zoom out, is the actual placement of the laser as it goes around. So the same thing as the red dot is tracing out the logo, you're watching it happen in basically real time. Maybe we're a little bit off right now. For us musicians in the room, it's not exactly real time. We can't jam yet over but we're gonna get there eventually. So while that's going, the rest of the presentation is not us sitting watching the red dot move. You know, that would be just enthralling, I'm sure. But I'm going to share, thank you, Michelle, and we're going to come back to it and we're going to show you what you made today. But I'm going to share a little bit of information about creativity and what we've learned about how it happens. And, you know, it's mysterious, this thing called creativity, right? That's why I sort of jokingly called it the quest, because it's this thing that you're struggling and getting after, and it can be hard sometimes. So let's take a look at how we can make it easier and how we can all work together to be more creative individuals. So just let me share my screen for a second and get my PowerPoint presentation up for you all. And if someone can give me a thumbs up when they can see the PowerPoint, that would be great, or at least the window with the PowerPoint on it. Anybody? Thumbs up? Can you see it? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, I think I saw a thumbs up. Awesome. Thanks, Al. Appreciate it. So this is the title. We've gone over lasers. So that's number one, or we've started. So everyone's a little bit more accustomed with lasers. Michelle is very accustomed now. She's going to teach the next one. And the quest for creativity is up next. We'll get to the robots in a bit. Don't you worry. So as I said, we all work for applied research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. We try to promote creativity and learning in a number of different ways through a whole host of different things, through research projects, through technology access, through workshops, and through mentorship. So all of those things, I absolutely believe contribute to opening up new ideas and possibilities to learners of all kinds at the college. And so I want to get into how we sort of do that. But more specifically for us, it's in the makerspace, because that's where we are right now. Virtually, we're all in the makerspace. So the goal really is that it should be accessible to everyone. And that was a super challenge when all the doors closed to the college, right? It was like, how do we still have it accessible by everyone when it's not, frankly? But what we did was it actually made it more accessible. So I've actually had people engaging the makerspace from Chile, from all over the world, from our workshops. So instead of it being now a local community that we were speaking to, it actually became a global community that we can open up. So interestingly enough, and what I will get into later, is sometimes these challenges or these things that happen to us and experiences turn on those creative processes. They make us try new things that become then something greater than you perceived it to be in the first place. So the weakness or the problem, I say that very loosely, the problem can sometimes become an even greater solution or lead to an even greater solution. And some of the ways that we like to do that are providing insight into new technologies. I think we did that so far. We've started at least down that path today. We support collaboration on new ideas. So you can come talk to us, and all of these things I mean virtually, but you can send us a request or an email or a Zoom chat to come talk to us about ideas. We love to hear things like, I have no idea if this is possible. Can you help me? That's like the best day is when somebody comes and goes, I don't think this is possible. And Davis will tell you later that that's the best thing to hear. Acknowledge that failure is part of the process. So failure is like a really strong word, and I feel like it's especially strong at the college. And it's not, if our counterpart, one of our colleagues that isn't here today, Ryan, loves to say that as long as you learn something, it isn't a failure. So, take the opportunities to try things and don't be afraid for what happens. And then curating curiosity. I think I'm blessed to have always wanted to ask all of the questions. And my parents are not blessed to have had a child that always wanted to ask all of the questions. But I've been able to sort of maintain that throughout my life by always trying to learn new things. And I think it's one of the most important things that adds to coming up with new ideas. So I'm going to basically go into that a few times today and tell you a little bit about how curiosity is probably the most important thing when it comes to creativity. Michelle,
Question: am I making this up, or did I think a high school student win an award for something he built in the makerspace in the last month or 6 weeks, maybe?
He did. That's a great question. So he didn't win an award specifically, but he built basically a prototype for a cancer detection probe, which is so incredible. And I have no idea how to make a cancer detection probe. But even though none of us in the space knew how to make one, we still contributed greatly to him making one, because he said he himself, and I quote, said, he wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of the makerspace, because we had done some of the steps ourselves. We had modeled things in 3D. We had built electronic components using Arduino, and he didn't know how to do those things, but he knew how to make the side of it that was the cancer detection AI coding part of it. So it wasn't just having a 3D printer, it was having people to talk to about his idea that really helped him get it over. So he didn't win an award, but he's currently filing for a patent for that. And I really have high hopes for Marianne.
And he's just he's not even a student at the college, is he not? I thought he's a high school student.
Community member and high school student. He's an amazing guy, and we look forward to doing more projects with Ariane in the future for sure. And so it is open to everyone. I'll take that moment to iterate. We don't mean everyone at the college. We literally mean everyone with a capital E. Like, we've had dogs in the makerspace, they're welcome to. Pathways to creativity. So these are models that I've sort of made a visual for, but it's what I've learned and what we have learned over 2 years of the makerspace, of its existence. Be curious. I said I was coming back to that. I'm right there, right away. Align interests with your learning. I have never seen so many smiling faces every day because of the students coming in to learn something that they were asking questions about. Not that the opposite of here is a rubric. It was like, what do you want to do? Is there something specifically that you're interested in? How can we align that with what you already know, what you already care about, what you already like to learn about? Finding inspiration, showing them new things, that engages new ideas. It evokes wonder. So it goes, how is that doing that thing? We're going to try to do that later. We have an example of something that will let you try to figure out. Question everything. There's that curiosity piece, like just ask questions about everything and discuss and debate. So don't just ask yourself the questions, also ask other people the questions. Encouraging new ideas. There's a whole bunch there that sort of these, we want people to have new ideas, and what gets in our way? Why don't we have new ideas all the time? And I think especially right now, I've been doing a lot of sort of research myself on the roadblocks that happen, especially when you're stressed. Stress is like the antithesis to creativity. Like when you are stressed, it is so hard to come up with new stuff. And so open mind is the first thing, because, and I mean open-minded isn't I'm open to new ideas, but I also mean it as I'm not allowing, my meeting that I have later to enter into my mind at the moment. And you need blue sky time, which is a design thinking sort of, or a design concept or musician's concept as well, where you don't try to assign your thoughts or use your thoughts in a very particular way. You sort of open your mind and listen to your thoughts, the opposite of what you would normally be doing. You're like, I'm going to do this later, and you're planning your day most of the time. But when you have blue sky time, imagine yourself looking at the sky with nothing to do that day and just letting things come in and out. And then that will help you to hear some things. Christina, my director, is entering. So everyone, welcome Christina, that's great. Challenge impossible. I ask a bunch of people when we're normally in the makerspace, what is a makerspace? They're standing in the makerspace and I say, hey, what's the first thing? Does anyone know what a makerspace is? And they go, They do, a lot of people. When I ask 7-year-olds, what is a makerspace? Literally every single one of their hands shoots up into the air. And then I ask them and they go, a space where you make things most of the time. And I'm like, yeah, 100%, didn't get in your own way there. So challenging the impossible, not letting your mind tell you you're going to be wrong, or not assigning things to be possible or impossible in your mind before you explore the possibility. The other sort of quote, generalized quote, is that things are only impossible until they aren't. So, everything goes along that frame. And if you add time to the equation, things aren't impossible anymore, right? Flying was impossible until it wasn't. Let's look at it from that, sort of thing. You could never do that. Piece of metal flying through the air, how's that possible? Well, it definitely is. Try something new. The best way to not have those challenges and those impossibilities present in your mind is to do something that you have no preconceived notions about. So take on anything new as a challenge or as a concept, and you'll end up having a more open mind and challenging the impossible just by doing it. And to be able to try things new, you have to not be afraid to do things new that are new to you. And you have to not be afraid to do things that you're not sure if you're going to be good at. As I find, as we get progress in life, let's say, we tend to stick to the things that we know. Whereas I'm a big fan of always taking on something new. Do something that you don't even think you can. Literally be like, that will be so hard. I really don't think I can do it. Do it anyway. So don't be afraid. A really big concept is that it doesn't ever stop. You don't get an idea, write it down, make a model, and then go, I'm done. Creativity, literally the having of an idea, breeds having more ideas. The more ideas that you open your mind to, the more ideas that you write down, the more ideas that you execute, the more they get shared with the outside world, the more that world sort of puts their opinions, puts their thoughts, put their spin on your object, on your thing, on the thing that you are creating. And then the more you learn from those people, and then you create something else based on that. So it's a continuous cycle of learning and creating and engaging. And all of those things, almost done here, all of those things is support and validate creative thinking with others. So you have to create a space and a culture, even if that's virtually, where it's okay for all of those things to exist, and you won't feel judged, or you won't feel, if you didn't do it right that time, that people are going to, make opinions or have opinions of it. And you want to be able to talk about your ideas and have either validation or feedback from other people. And then collaborating, everyone has different opinions and different skill sets. So if you have a culture of like, I'm trying to do a thing, would you help me? And other people are there to sort of jump on, and it gives momentum to the ideas, and it breeds, again, more ideas out of it. So in the makerspace, the one thing that you need to have is curiosity. I started, middle, and end on curiosity. We have mostly everything else. So all you need to do is want to know something, and we will help you know that thing and push your idea to the next level. That's the presentation, in slides right now. We're going to go through actually and then show you some examples, real live examples of how we have done some of those things that I just talked about. But if you want to contact me, or you want to follow applied research, that would be great. We have workshops and all kinds of other things that you can engage with us in. And these are some of the areas to do that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now, and I'm going to hand it back over to Stephen so that he can show you some 3D printers.
Fortunately, it's a little bit noisy right now. This is going to keep going for the next minute or so, but I will try to take you over and show you.
You know what? Give him a minute. Are there any questions at the moment while we're letting the laser go for one more minute? Anybody have a question? No? Does anyone have an idea that they've been like kicking around in their head? Al, I know you have an idea because you came to the makerspace and asked about it. And I'm calling you out right now, but Al, can I share your idea? Do you want to share your idea? Yeah, I can. I'll go ahead.
Yeah, well, just I've been looking at making a musical instrument, I guess, is where I'm going with this. And, you know, so doing some research into how to do it right. And, you know, it's encouraging to hear you talking in ways to say, you know what, let's make some mistakes, essentially, right? Because, you know, we can look at the theory and research it and do blueprints forever and never have something tangible. And in the end, we want to see what's possible. So until it's something, and with real music, real quote unquote, say wood and steel, you need to have them in hand, you know, to know if it's right enough. So lots of things look good on paper, and you know, some of those most expensive of whatever it might be are really good on paper, but it might not be a good fit. So it's kind of a reason why I don't buy shoes online, you know, like you got to wear the damn thing. So
100%.
So musical instruments are maybe even more sensitive in that sense. So
Iterative for sure, right? Like you got to try it, hold it, show it to people. That's the best part. Honestly, the best part, if you make the first prototype and then you start showing it to people, you get so much feedback. Your idea could change. It could literally completely change based on what other people have to say, or it could solidify that you knew what you wanted and that you should still strive for that. It can do two things, but either way, people make you think about your idea when you share it. You have to think more deeply about it. And so thanks, Al. Thanks for sharing. I really do hope that we can make a sweet musical instrument and then jam out on it.
well, that's it. And the collaborative approach is good too, because you know, I've been throwing ideas around in my own head, and you know, they don't really they don't come to fruition the same sort of way, I think, without some external you know, advice or even just other ideas.
Awesome.
Forward to the process.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it too, Al. Stephen, are you there? Is it loud? Are we good?
Right. The cutter has finished. It is a very, very fast process compared to what you're about to see in 3D printing. So 3D printing is what draws a lot of people into makerspaces. And in fact, when I first went to a makerspace at the Ottawa Library many, many years ago, I went in to use a 3D printer. So I'm going to talk a bit about what 3D printers are, what they do, and some of the projects we can do with them. And then Davis the Matter are going to tell you about an awesome project we got to work on. 3D printers, the best way to think of them is basically a very high-tech glue gun. So they take plastic from a roll. If you look at that from the side, you can see I've got rolled plastic all the way down into a heating element and a nozzle, which you can hopefully see, that is laying very, very small layers of plastic down one at a time. And we're talking fractions of a millimeter, one at a time. What we're currently printing, when it's done, is going to look like this. They are little castle models. These prints have been going for 4.5 hours now, and as you can see, they've got a long way left to go. But we have all kinds of different 3D printers. Some do different things. I've got 4 of them going here. Some of them, as you can see, look very different. We've got some very tall ones. We've got some larger beds. We've got some smaller beds. Every one of these is a 3D printer. People often ask us in this space when they see our 3D printers, and when I say they take plastic and they melt it down, and as Matt likes to point out, a lot of prints fail. Well, what happens to all of this plastic on failed prints? Do we just throw it out? Does it go into landfills? Well, actually, no. We use a kind of plastic called PLA, which is polylactic acid, and it's a corn-based plastic. So it's actually biodegradable. So when our projects fail, when we throw them out, if you cut these things into small pieces and bury them, they take about 2 to 5 years to melt. So they're actually one of the most environmentally friendly prototyping things I know of. I'm going to take you over here on a bit of a tour past our laser cutter to look at a printer I have next to me. And on this printer, we just finished 2 key tags. And these key tags were part of one of the most interesting projects that we did in the makerspace. I'm going to turn over to Matt now, who's going to tell you about what this project was, what the challenge was, and how we overcame it.
Thanks, Stephen. So you could sort of make out what that was, but basically, can you guys see the screen here? Can you see this? Yeah. So this is a keychain, right? But it's a little bit more of an advanced keychain. And it's the solution to a challenge that we presented by Jeffrey Turner, who works in the Dare District, or who was working in the Dare District. He works at the college, but I'm sure he's working from home now, right, at the moment. And he said that he had PCL visiting because they were donating, providing a contribution to the college. So that was fantastic. But what he wanted to do was, at the same time as presenting them with a gift of some kind that, was here, we made this at the college. He wanted it fabricated at the college. And he also wanted to have something new and interesting about it, to show them that, we were thinking differently at Algonquin and trying to take new concepts and move them forward. And so we had been kicking around this idea of NFC stickers, and Davis is going to show you what one is later. Unfortunately, I don't have one at my house, but he has some at his house. And what it is a tiny little sticker that has a copper wiring in it, and it's literally inside this. And if any of you have ever tapped to pay, it's the same thing inside your phone. It's NFC. But what it does is it holds a number of digits, zeros and ones, which represent data, which you can embed. So I could have an image saved on this keychain. I could have a URL link to a video, to a website, to my business, my portfolio page, for example, anything like that. A few different options. It technically could hold money, but it'll be a little bit more complicated. And so what we did is we devised a way that we could take the Pcl logo, put a link to their website on it that we could then give to them. And so we had this little keychain. But you're wondering, this thing is solid. You guys can't see it, but you're probably wondering, like, how did we get the caramel in the caramel bar kind of idea? Like, where's the NFC? How did it get in here? And Davis is going to actually show you guys the process of how we got that inside there. So over to you, Davis.
All right, I'm going to start screen sharing my screen. So this is the PCL logo, if you guys can see that. You're probably curious, how did we get to this point? Well, I can actually show you step by step. So first off, we started with the actual PCL logo, nicely taken from their website. From that point, we kind of build the object around it in a 2D sketch, similar to my very poor attempt at line art, I guess. And from that point, you actually make it into an object by actually pushing it into space, basically. Unfortunately, real life doesn't work like that. It'd be pretty awesome, though, to just push your sketches out, but slowly working on it. From that point, I made an actual cavity for the logo because we were actually going to make this in multiple parts, so we can make the colors like different plastics so they don't wear away in time. After that, this is the actual insert, the all the text and lettering. So if you're curious on how the actual different colors show up, it's actually by having different levels. And then partway through, we just change the color. So that way we can just switch to a new color and just make this, or the layer above it, a different color entirely. From that point, I just made it a little bit more prominent. And that little sketch right there is a circle, which will play a part fairly soon, as I can show you, and where it was made. So from this point, I would bring it into a slicing program, basically a 3D simulator / programmer for the printers. And we can actually see what it would look like while it's printing. And let's bring that to the point where it matters, which is right here. See that little grayish cylinder? That's a representation of the nozzle. And this is the actual cavity that we cut out for the NFC sticker. And before it builds a layer above it, we actually pause the print and stick the little sticker in there. And I can actually really quickly stop my screen share and show you what that little sticker looks like. So it's a tiny little sticker like this, about 25 millimeters across, or about an inch. And that actually allows you to, tap on your device. It's passively powered by the host device. So you can literally seal this in a container, dunk it underwater, throw it across the earth, and in 3 years, if it's still, not degraded by sunlight, you can probably just tap it on the phone and it'll work. All right, I'm gonna hand that back to you, Matt.
Thank you very much, Davis. That's awesome, and I'm so glad that you came up with that solution, because that was the thing. I was like, we can't just stick it on the side. We can't. For me, that was the impossible, But for Davis, it was, I know how 3D printing works, and I can quickly tell you that I could just press stop in the middle. And I was like, wait, you can do that? And he's like, yeah, why not? And I was like, well, it's not going to mess it up. He's like, no. So then we did, and it worked out perfectly, which is fantastic. This is the collaboration, I think, right? If I was trying in a vacuum, I would have stopped, and this thing would have just had a sticker on the back of it, and it would have looked real not good. But because I engaged Davis and Steven and Ryan, they had better ideas than I did, and we made it happen. So that's what we want to do for everybody else as well. So now it's over to Steven, who's going to take you on a little bit more of a tour around the space.
All right, so I'm going to show you some of the projects that we've worked on, and then introduce the second word of our title, robotics. So these projects here, for example, you can see the castle that we were looking at earlier as it prints. Ryan, who unfortunately can't be here today, happens to be an expert prop builder, and everything you're looking at currently, with the exception of the robot, was 3D printed, painted, and finished. Ryan used to get asked a lot when we opened if he was a very talented person, or it's great that these are things you can do, but no one else can do it. He actually took it upon himself to run a workshop and teach people how to finish models. If you want to do something awesome, something you never thought you could do before, I'm a little embarrassed, but I may show you mine later, Ryan can definitely take you from the 3D printed model to the finished project. Another thing we're going to talk about today is robots. And when most people think robots, this is what comes to mind. Something that looks like a person, moves like a person, talks like a person. But that's not all robots really are. Technically, this 3D printer and all of the printers along the side there are also robots. They meet the technical definition of a robot. And they are powered by a board that looks a lot like this. In the middle of it is a chip. This chip is called an Arduino. And we were running, when we started this with this makerspace, we knew we wanted to do something with the Arduinos. We just didn't know what that something was going to be yet. We decided about a year ago to start running workshops to help people get into electronics. And we found a person who could run those workshops, who was an expert in electronics, who eventually decided to leave the college, which meant somebody had to step up and take over. And for some reason, that somebody quickly became me. Now, I didn't have much experience in electronics. I'm a coder. I've been programming since I was about 6, but electronics was something that I kind of did in high school and didn't touch. However, Matt said this is probably going to be impossible, which to me meant this is something I definitely have to do. So I dedicated far too much of my off work time, to my wife's demise, learning how to make electronic kits. And we started running workshops, and we would get people coming in. Al, for example, came and took one of those workshops with us, teaching people the basic rudiments. I was learning as we went. And then March 13th came, and all of a sudden, nobody was allowed in the makerspace anymore. But we still wanted to run these sessions. We still wanted to find a way to adapt this so that we could teach people to come in off the street and design circuits that do awesome things, like light up lights in a sequence. Obviously, it was going to be cumbersome to try to ship a kit of this size to every person who wanted to take it. And honestly, we couldn't expect people to put down $75 to join these workshops. So we applied some creative thinking to it and wondered what would happen if there was a way to do this online. Is there a simulator? Is there some way we can actually run this series? And it turned out the answer was yes. Autodesk, the company that makes Fusion 360 that Davis was showing you for 3D modeling, also makes a free Arduino simulator called Tinkercad, which allows you to do all of the same things that I just showed you in that circuit. I can simulate electronic components. I can simulate code. I can run all kinds of programs. And in many ways, it's actually better than a real Arduino kit. If I fail in an Arduino kit, I usually end up frying something, whether that's the Arduino or electronic components or that magic smoke that tends to come out of projects that go wrong. In a virtual world, that doesn't happen. We are free to experiment. We're free to try things. We're free to develop in ways that we wouldn't necessarily want to do in the real world. From that, we actually grew our one-hour Arduino workshop into a series of 4 workshops. As Matt was mentioning earlier, our workshop series through the Makerspace and through applied research, as a result of embracing this we have to go online mentality, has actually grown to reach audiences in Africa, in Asia, in South America. Matt was invited not that long ago to be a guest speaker in Chile, just because we had a challenge. We decided impossible wasn't going to be good enough and found a way around it. I'll turn back over to Matt now.
Well, thank you very much, Stephen. I think this is a good time. We've said a lot of things. Is there any moments for questions? Anything that's coming to your mind that you're wondering about? It would be a great opportunity for that, because we have a little bit of a pause as we start to wrap up. We are just going to show you something that is a little bit wonderful in the best sense of the term, meaning it evokes that wonder sometimes when people wonder, how is it possible? And so we'll show you that as soon as Stephen gets around the table. That's what's happening right now. And he's gonna light it up when he gets back here, which is pretty awesome. And then after that, I'm gonna just show you guys how you can get involved. So I will basically be showing a little bit of the best ways to contact us, how to visit our website. We had to redo the website, so that's pretty fun that we redid it so that it was more virtual friendly. Before it was more of a hey, come to the Makerspace pitch, and now it's a hey, virtually access the services and skills that we have, right? So what I want to do, and just to get it out there, is that we provide this tour for classrooms. Ilya, you're in here, and you know that we're coming to your class later in a couple weeks to show them some 3D printing, and we've already had you guys to do a tour of the Makerspace as well. I think there is something to just harken back to that idea that rubrics sometimes can sort of dispel the student. It doesn't help them with their creative want and desire to learn new things. It actually makes them only learn exactly what you told them to and nothing more. And so we want to be that space, that place, or that virtual space, let's call it, where students are able, and learners of all kinds, I should be very specific. I mean, we mean staff and everybody at the college, not just the students, to be able to do that, to learn the things they don't even know that they wanted to learn yet. And so whenever, I think that's an important thing. And I have learned just through taking on, I will say, like, my own learning has gone through the roof. Like, I wasn't using Fusion 360, and now I like to use Fusion 360. And I'm starting to look at things like, just a crazy example of this morning, I was, getting ready and looking at my beard trimmer as I was just trimming up my beard. And I looked at it and was like, how would I model that in Fusion? I don't know, that curve right there. And I was like, who am I? Like, that's not me. I don't know. That wasn't me like a year ago, right? Everything, the world changes when you learn new things. You perceive the world differently. So I think Stephen is ready, and I want to kick it back to him, but he can let me know if he's not.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Awesome.
So what I'm going to show you now is one of the projects that I am most proud of in this space. This is something that Ryan and I worked together on for probably about 8 to 10 months. I've got one in my hand right now. If you can see on the screen, kind of looks like a relatively low resolution picture. You may be able to make out some eyes, maybe a face. However, where these things really come alive is when I bring it in front of the light. So what you're looking at right now is called lithophane. It's a 3D printed photograph. And lithophanes originated in 18th century France. Originally, they were carved out of the back of ceramic, and they would take weeks to make. And I'm a pretty lazy person. I didn't want to spend weeks carving out a stone. So something like this will print in a matter of hours. Ryan and I obviously didn't invent the concept. We didn't invent 3D printing them, but we experimented with different materials. Everything you see on this table ostensibly is a color of white. However, they all behave very differently when you put them in front of the light. So this white ends up being more of a purple. The first one I showed you looks more like paper. This white ends up looking much more orange, gives you some very natural looks. When Ryan and I showed these at an event we run called Reaction a few years ago, we got asked by a lot of people, what's the point of this? And why do you need to make plastic artwork? Why does anybody want this? Well, Ryan came up with a really brilliant solution on the spot. How many times have you walked into an art gallery and had someone say, why don't you touch my painting? Why don't you feel this, see what it feels like? But with the lithophane, you can do that. They're cheap to make, they're easy to make, and you get a tactile response. Now imagine people who can't see with their eyes, all of a sudden can see artwork with their hands. And that's kind of where we want to go with these. This is something that we want to explore further, reaching out to maybe the Canadian Institute for the Blind and trying to find ways to make art or creative art more accessible to people who can't view it the way we all do. So that was the culmination of about 8 to 10 months worth of work. And honestly, if you ever get a chance to tour the Makerspace, it is probably the most magical moment of the tour when people pick one of these up and hold it in front of the light for the first time. Matt, I'll turn back over to you to conclude.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. I always love those lithophanes. And for me, that moment, it was one of those lithophanes in there was made over, well, 2 years ago now. And I got sent a picture of the lithophane, which is really, I mean, now sounds like, okay, well, that just happened to you guys, but a video is different. You saw the light appearing in front of it. I just got sent a picture without light behind it, and a very excited Ryan, who's not here right now, saying like, look at what this is. Oh my goodness, I did it. And I went, I literally could not see the boat on the water because I didn't know what a boat was, if that makes sense to everyone, that analogy. I could not see what I was looking at. And it was this, it's impossible for me to describe to you guys, but my eyes did not, and my brain did not tell me what the photo was until after the fact. I ran in, I came to the Makerspace on the Monday because this was the weekend, and he just sent me a text. And I went, Ryan, what is that thing you were so excited about? I literally don't know what it is. I've been wondering since Saturday when you sent it. And then he showed me, and I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. And over the 2 years, it has gone through different iterations of just being something we experimented with, different materials, all of that, to sharing it with people. And the fact that it got turned into, I think, something that, imagine you could go to the Louvre and you were visually impaired and you could actually experience the Mona Lisa for the first time because you wouldn't have ever been able to do that before. If it becomes that is like the epitome of what I want the Makerspace to do to ideas. I want it to take something that seems cool at the beginning and turn it into something that's valuable for society in the end. So on that note, that's, the existential sort of feelings about it are kind of the end of that. I want to get into what's real. And what's real is I want to do that for you guys. And how do you do it? You might be sitting there, well, like, that's great. I can send you an email, Matt, or what do I do? I'm going to share my screen really quickly because I want to show you our website because I'm proud of that we made it and we've redone it so that, can you guys see a website there? Is that, yeah? No? Yeah, okay, great. So awesome. So we have people in the space. I like to point out, if you can see in the back there, that's the idea board. We're trying to figure out how we do that virtually, but anyone who said, hey, what would be cool? We'd literally like, don't finish that sentence, go right on the board and then tell us, because we wanted them to walk in later and still have a record of their ideas or have other people look at them and feel inspired. It was this cool thing to have it visual. So basically, the website here, it's part of the AIR Applied Research Innovation Entrepreneurship website, but you can get there through facilities and then the Makerspace. And then what happens is you have virtual services and workshops. So if you want to book a consultation, you can do that just by clicking here. And this is how every process starts. You have an idea, you don't even have an idea, you just want to use the laser cutter and you don't know how yet. We have them listed out for you: 3D printing, laser cutting, electronics. And then there's this big old bucket here called something else. And that is the most important thing. If you want to do something, don't limit yourself. Something else is the most important one on here, honestly. The rest of it is cool. And if you know what you want, that's great too. And it lets us know a little bit of information, but don't let the idea that you don't know what it is you need from us stop you from contacting us, because we'll help you to know what it is that you need from us. Just if you want to tell us your idea in this little box right here. And frankly, this is a very, very powerful box, because I don't know if you guys have ever done the exercise of being like, I have a brilliant idea. And then you start writing it. I've done this a million times. And you're like, it was so clear in here. And then I tried to articulate it and it's like, it's not coming out the way I thought. So sometimes this box, which looks like writing 3 sentences about your project, is actually going to be the first step in you getting your idea from in here out here. And you will get sent an email with some of the information back. So that's really good. And it is the first step to making things happen and making ideas shareable. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge that you don't expect. I faced that challenge yesterday with an idea. So like, do it, exercise it, because the more you do it, the better you get. There's one thing that we didn't do so far, which is, I believe, Michelle, you created something today and we haven't taken a look at it. So Stephen, if I can call you back, I will get you what's going to happen oh, there we are. We have the laser right there.
I'm currently standing in front of the laser cutter, and it has finished making its cut. So down here on the bed is the piece we just cut out. So that is a very, very intricate cut of the Kaleidoscope logo that was done in just under 15 minutes. And Michelle, if you do want to set up a contactless pickup with us, this is yours.
Oh, I will do that then.
It was your first, it's your first make. If if you've never used the laser cutter, you said you hadn't, that's epic. It's always good to have your first one.
So Matthew, if you look way, way back on that ideas board, you may find something I wrote there more than a year ago. I said I wanted to make a quilt, and I still don't know how we would do that virtually.
So what? Oh, because you needed a sewing machine
and an ironing board, which I have at my house. I mean,
was the sewing machine in there at the time? May I ask?
Yes, the sewing machine was in there. That's what made me think of it. That's right.
Okay, awesome. So
an ironing board's easy.
The ironing board's easy. That I don't know yet. We're working on the whole virtual sewing aspect. I would say there's probably some opportunities to start with your design. So the number one thing you need to do before you can make it is figure out what you want it to look like, how you want it to look, what is that quilt going to be, what shape does it take on, is it going to be a circle, is it going to be patches, what is that quilt going to be? And to say you want to make a quilt is one thing, and I do this all the time. I literally, since I have been 20, or even before that, have notebooks and pieces of paper with like, I would like to do this or this idea on it. But I'm telling you, the moment you actually start building it into reality, it'll get figured out. And it might not be in 2 months, it might be in a longer time frame. But if you have that quilt and that idea, somehow we will be provided with the opportunity for you to make that quilt. I promise you, I have faith in that. Start by if you would like to, book an appointment, and we can talk about what it is that you want your quilt to look like and what would be the best tool for designing out the final of the quilt so that you have a rubric, so you have a plan, not a rubric, you have a plan of what it would look like. And that way you then even know what you need. Because right now, you need to know what you need, or at least you think you need a sewing machine. Maybe you don't.
Maybe you don't. Good point.
So that's all I have for today. I'm really happy that everyone was here, that we could share the makerspace in the first tour. It was like the light of everything before, being able to do these tours. It was so amazing, such a good break in the day, get up from your desk and inspire people, and so to be able to figure out a way to do that and be engaged through Kaleidoscope. Thank you very much. I see Valerie's here as well as Rob. So thank you very much to them for that. And I hope to speak to all of you, and that each of you will, go forth and tell people about the creativity that is available to them and how they can engage some of their ideas for everybody. And if you're looking to book a tour, it could be for you and your family. It could be for, it doesn't have to be for a classroom, but we honestly welcome classroom tours as well. If there are any final questions, I would be happy to answer them. We have about 5 minutes left in our presentation.
Do you have lithographic printing?
A lithographic painting?
Printing.
Oh, we don't have we don't have one printing at this very moment. Ryan, who isn't here, he's the Lithophane master. He is like the one who does them. They look pretty simple, but I'm telling you, he has his system nailed in. Those are like half of the ones he's done. So we let Ryan do a lot of the setups. He's been experimenting with them. You'd be surprised though. I'll give you a little insight on how they are printed because I was surprised. They're not printed like this. Can you guys see my arm? Yeah, I don't see myself. They're printed like this. So like on that thin edge, they're printed upwards. And that's because the resolution of the printer this way is like, it just doesn't allow for the side to side movement to make such fine resolution. So being able to print them like this, and then here's another problem. So that's perfect. We figured that out. We solved that solution. The next thing that presented itself was as it gets taller, so we printed a small one and that was fine. As it got taller, we started printing them and the movement of the gantry adds like a little bit of wiggle, like the tiniest amount of wiggle, like, you know, like that, like the really, really small, like you can barely perceive it. But the outcome meant that it wasn't as sharp anymore at the top as it was at the bottom, which our eyes are incredibly good at noticing things like this, you know, when we're looking at a photo. And so actually the solution is very lo-fi, but we take a popsicle stick and a glue gun, a real glue gun, not the fancy glue gun that we talked about earlier. And we just put a little dab of glue on each one and prop up the actual lithophane on both sides. So I can't show you one printing at the very moment, but it is a learning process. It took probably, again, 6-8 months for them to figure out how do we make them so dialed in, how we get so much detail out of it.
I'm going to add to that as well. One of our biggest challenges with making lithophanes when we started was finding pictures that actually made good lithophanes. We needed pictures that had very high contrast, so things that were stark black and white. And these became the big Christmas gift. When Ryan made a couple and they were sitting on a table, all of a sudden everyone wanted one for Christmas. I think in December of 2018 and 2019, we were running about 40 of these things every month. It was insane. So we spent time trying to figure out how to make it work with any picture, because we couldn't tell people, come to me with a high contrast black and white picture. So unless you're giving me stills from Casablanca or anything from Humphrey Bogart in, it's probably not going to work. And Ryan and I together spent probably about 2 weeks that we really should have been working on other projects, sorry, Matt, trying to find ways to make it work with just about any photo. So we're at the point now where you can even bring us a photo you took with your cell phone, and we can usually make a pretty good lithophane out of them.
If there aren't any other questions, I would.
I think I do apologize that I'm attending this session too late because I was in another sessions.
No worries.
So that's good to see you all safe and healthy, and it looks like it was a very interesting topic.
We can send you the link, Wahab. It's recorded, so you'll be able to watch it later.
Definitely, I will visit the site. I mean.
Awesome. That'd be great.
One quick question.
Yeah.
In terms of software, so let's say if I wanted to take a 3D image to send you guys to print out a little model or something like that, what maybe even more specifically, what file format do you need to make the print?
Yeah, that's an STL file format is typically what we're doing. I mean, I will say that's the PDF of 3D printing. So it usually works really well. There are other reasons to get step files or other files if we need to edit them, but the easy answer is always an STL file. And you can actually share that directly through that portal that I showed you, but you have to zip it first. So we can only accept, because of our firewall at the college, we only accept zip files. So just if you have something you want to print, you can just send it to us that. I will say you don't have to 3D model something to 3D print something, just FYI, because you can go to places like Thingiverse, My Mini Factory. There's a whole host, and we have resources on our website that you can visit to find models that are already created, and then you can just print them yourself for fun to see, okay, do I want to paint it, or what are the things that you want to do, and that process is fun in and of itself, just to hold the first. There's the step of I printed something and here's the thing I printed, and then there's like I modeled something and here's the thing I modeled and then printed. But don't limit yourself just because you don't know how to operate modeling software. Don't limit yourself, period, is really the point of this entire presentation. There are so many opportunities to learn and to do things that you just don't know you're capable of until you take a shot at it.
I do have very, very quick question. Do you have guys handheld device that will scan, let's say I want to do 3D printing for my head, and I just
We do have a handheld device in there. Right now, I can't get close enough to you, Wahab, to make it work, but I do have one of those. unfortunately, we haven't figured that out yet. But what I would say that you should experiment with is that we have one of those, but also there's some amazing software on the internet where you can turn your cell phone, you basically stand somewhere, you hold up your phone or you position it, and then you just take a bunch of photos of your own head as you move around. Try not to, try to stay still. It might not work as perfectly, but it's a good start. And then you have a 3D model and you save it, it wraps them all and turns it into a good approximation. And you could send us that file and we could print it.
I see. Okay, that's fantastic. So I will do a circle. I put the cell phone. I'll just move the circle instead of myself.
There's specific software for it. If you want, send me an email or send the Makerspace an email, whichever one you would prefer, and then I can send you a link to the software.
Excellent.
Rob, if I may just take a couple of seconds to just to thank Matthew and his team here, who I interviewed Matthew, so I'm sort of familiar with some of the stuff he was going to be covering. I'm sorry I couldn't attend the whole session, as Wahab was saying. So yeah, it's thank you for your enthusiasm and for all that you do for the college. I know that creativity is a big part of what we do and will be doing more of, especially now in this environment that we're in and the virtual environment. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that as well on behalf of all of us from the Kaleidoscope Committee, and probably on behalf of the rest of the participants as well. Very, very grateful that you all took the time to show us some really cool things here. I love how this aligns with adult learning principles in general as well. Just this idea that it's about the learners and what they want to do, and it's not necessarily tied to a grade or a job that they might be looking for. It's just in the interest of learning. I love that. I love it.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all. And more than that, I look forward to seeing you make something.